All right, we are on air. It is Thursday, December 13th, and this meeting is to check in on active core development tasks for Backdrop CMS. So before we get into what's going on in Backdrop Core, one contributed project update this week I thought was notable. Geocoder finally got a release, and that project is one that has had a ton of people have their hands on it since it was started. The port was originally started with GFOD. It was then improved by Wes Jones or Earth Day 47, and it was completed by Juan Walla. And then in order to get its release done, I took over maintainership of it last week and merged in pull requests from a whole bunch of people and got it out. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of the various people that have had their hands in getting Geocoder ported from Drupal to Backdrop. And now anyone who needs to use Geocoder, particularly for plotting addresses onto maps, has a workable solution for getting that done. So thank you, everybody, for all of the hard work in getting that in. All I did was sort of put together the work everyone else had already done. So I wanted to make sure they all got adequate things for that. For our websites, backdropcms.org is getting a lot of attention these days around the treatment of projects. And I think that's particularly notable because Drupal 9 now has an official release date. I'm not sure whether it'll happen on time or not, but it is likely to, which is going to be June 30th of 2020. And so I think more people are going to start looking at Backdrop as a suitable alternative to Drupal 8 for existing Drupal 7 projects. And so I would love to be able to get the project search updated and made more usable for those people to figure out if Backdrop's a good fit for them. The designs that we had originally done 4 years ago or so have finally been fully implemented, but I'm working on improving the actual results of the search to make sure that the things that people are looking for can be easily found. And then our forum site is having memory consumption problems. So I'm not sure exactly what the cause of this is, but we're seeing out of memory errors under two specific instances. One of them is hitting preview on a new forum topic, and the other one is hitting preview on a comment. So there's something about our new preview system that is highly consumptive of memory. And because the forum site is on the same server as other Backdrop properties, we tried increasing the memory limit on the server within reason. When we still ran into issues, we just disabled the preview of both comments and forum topics. In that process, we did realize there is no option to disable preview site-wide for content. So I had to pound access equals false, the preview button. It would be great if Backdrop had a way that you could turn previews off, either site-wide or by content type, in the same way that you can turn comment previews on and off. So feature request came up there too. But more important than that, it would be really great if somebody who has experience in memory profiling could volunteer some time to take a look at the forum site in particular and figure out what it's doing that may be different from other Backdrop sites, and try and catch these memory consumption issues and fix them in Backdrop Core. Because I imagine if our forum site's having these problems, probably a bunch of other people who are running Backdrop sites are going to run into them too. I'd love to get the problem solved at the root. So anyone who knows how to do that, please help.
I can take a look at that.
That would be great. Okay, so that's all we have for Backdrop related web properties. Let's turn over to Backdrop CMS itself.
Okay, we had some things happening this week. We scheduled the release of 1.11.3. We didn't quite meet this schedule this week, but we did get it out, which was really important. So 1.11.3 came out just yesterday, which includes a huge bucket of fixes. Two things that I think are worth mentioning. There was a small problem with the installer, that its automatic detection between localhost and 127.0.0.1 wasn't working correctly. So that made it so that users of MAP in particular had to manually enter in localhost in order to get Backdrop to install, which was the opposite of what we were hoping to achieve in the 1.11 release. To help facilitate a smoother installation, we accidentally made it a little rockier for a short while. Now that problem is fixed. So that should make it so that no matter how you have MySQL set up, Backdrop is likely to be able to detect and use the right connection information automatically now. Let's see. Also, key, we fixed a regression in that came out in the 1.11.1 release, which was a security fix to sanitize class names in layouts. And that has been fixed so that now the class name that you type in is exactly what gets output after it gets sanitized. We don't do any unnecessary transitioning from like hyphens or underscores to hyphens, which is what was happening before, kind of unwanted class manipulation. So now as long as the class is valid, it now passes through unmodified. So there are a bunch of other fixes as well in 1.11.3. There's about, I don't know how many issues, there were like 20 or so that all came out at the same time. So that is now out. All upstreams are updated except for platform. That one is waiting on Jeff, who it looks like he's not around today. He's probably been occupied. So, but the Docker image is updated. Pantheon is updated. The homepage link is updated. So lots of upstreams that are all running the new latest version now. So that makes it so that items that we didn't get done in 1.11.3 have now been bumped into the next bug fix version, which is 1.11.4. This seems kind of similar to the items that we had last week. The predefined color schemes for basis, still no updates on that one. That's issue 3209. We have color schemes that are created there. We said that they all look pretty good. I think we really just kind of need to move that one forward. We were hoping to pass it through an accessibility review and a design review, but these things haven't happened. As it is, like, it's really simple. Just add an array of colors. And we have historically changed those in the past as well. So I think maybe we should just proceed with, getting that one in, because the pull request we have is working, just hasn't gone through as much the kinds of review that we were looking for there. But still, better to iterate than to not do anything at all. So let's see. Also related to color module, Safari is having some troubles previewing in issue 3295. But Joseph, who is here with us, noted that his pull request on a different issue, 3257, which allows color fields to be grouped into field sets so that they can be separated into like categories for like header and footer, for example. That pull request that he has created over there fixes the color preview issue in Safari. I'm not quite sure how those two things are related, but it is good that one thing fixes another. We did find that in 3295 or 3295, that Safari does not actually support color inputs, but the next version does. So it's kind of one of these things that I think our best approach is probably to provide better graceful degradation for the time being. And then as browsers get updated, it'll start working in the near future. Joseph, do you have anything you'd like to add there?
Just the, I actually fixed the Safari preview thing because I actually saw an error in Firefox. Basically, like it was trying to call a function on the iframe before the iframe was fully loaded, and it was throwing an error in Firefox, but then like gracefully handled it. But in Safari, it didn't throw an error and just bails out loading the iframe.
Thanks, Safari.
So I just added on the initial setting of the preview settings. I just added, like, put it in a jQuery event on the load of the iframe.
Nice.
On the initial load. So yeah.
Yeah, I think our best way forward here would be to untangle these issues. Like, 3295 is fixed by 3257, but 3257 does other things. And then we found a new issue in 3295 regarding the fact that color input is not actually supported. We should start separating those out. It would be nice if we could just fix the color preview issue in the issue that says that it's for that specific problem, because it sounds like that fix you just described can be self-contained.
Yeah. All right, I can do that.
Thank you. That'd be greatly appreciated. Then that'll be one less thing that we can have to bring up every week during these meetings. Let's see. Also, let's see. Recently, a new version of Drupal 7 came out, Drupal 7.61, and we have an issue to track the cross-ports from the latest version of Drupal over into Backdrop, and that issue is 3375. There's a bunch of these that have been had pull requests created, and a bunch of them that have been marked RTBC. And I sadly did not include those in the release this past week, just because things weren't labeled in a way that increased the visibility. But those things should promptly be going through and starting to get committed. Gregory, do you know how many of those roughly do not have pull requests?
So it's a good thing that GitHub gives you, the way that we do it, we add checkboxes. So it gives you an overview if you look at the ticket, how many are done out of the total. And what we have been doing is, I think Herb was doing the reviews. So each time that we found that something was not applicable, we ticked it. And each time that there was a pull request that was reviewed, we also ticked that. So if you reference that ticket from any pull request, you should get a progress bar that says sort of 14 out of something. Let me just quickly.
Yeah, it actually looks like every single one of these has a pull request, except for one, which says that it's mostly implemented in an issue that we already completed. So we were a little bit ahead, apparently, of supporting PHP 7.2, for example.
Yeah. So any pull requests that have a tick, let me see. Oh, actually not. I think that you need to go next to the ticking is for pull requests that actually get merged. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure how it was done. Maybe each pull request has a comment from the person who was reviewing it.
Yeah. I saw a lot of comments on them saying, just commenting our TBC, because not everybody can change the status on pull requests, which is why we have the whole separate issue queue in the first place.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that looks really good then. Looks like every single one of them has a pull request. I'm not sure if all of them are TBC or not, but lots of them are. So that we can proceed in merging a lot of those.
Most of them were straightforward and small ones. For the ones that I have doubts, I mentioned it in the pull request itself, I need second pair of eyes or more.
Okay, great. So lots of progress there. The other issue that we've got here on the agenda as being one that gets addressed as soon as possible is there's a problem with CKEditor. When you create a link on an image, then it causes a fatal error. Looks like current status looks like things are coming along better, although it looks like there's some notices. Actually, it looks like that's also been addressed. So current status of that issue, 3384, is it needs review, although it looks like it has had some feedback and people are confirming that things are looking good. So so that one's currently needs review, might need to be transitioned into RTBC. Okay, those are the key issues that we got for 111.4 and the status of 111.3. We'll close out the 111.3 milestone pretty imminently. The only thing that's left is updating the upstream for platform, and that's it. 1.12, we are quickly heading towards the world of 1.12. We have roughly a month before it comes out. It will be out January 15th, 2019. And we've got a lot of things that we would like to complete before January 1st, which is Feature Freeze Day. So issues of note, we'll run through these. There's some of them that haven't had updates in a while, which is a little sad. But then as we get to the end, there's a lot of them that are ready to go. So core updates. Core updates, whether they're automatic updates or the UI for updating. Looks like actually, Jen, you've been touching on this recently in issue 3271. Would you be able to give us an update on that?
Yes, if I can find my unmute button. So let's see, what did I do in that issue? This is last week. I think I went through, there was another issue that enabled automatic updates. And so what I did is just pulled out the part of that issue that enabled the ability to update it all. So before there was like, you know, what updates do you want? And there was a question about like, oh, manual versus automatic. And so I changed that so it's a checkbox that says allow manual updates. And then I added another checkbox that says allow automatic updates, but I left it disabled. And I did that because I didn't want people to get confused between manual and automatic. I thought that if they saw the update for manual, they might think that was automatic. And I wanted to very explicitly state that we were going to do both, but that one of them is currently disabled. I also chose the name self updates, which I think I could use some feedback on, to try and indicate that Backdrop was updating itself rather than, because manual sounds like I'm going to go delete the files and put them back. And so I was like, went back and forth on what to call these things. And so I would just love more people to give that pull request a test and see if the language there makes sense. I also did some other cleanup on the on that form. I grouped things into field sets to try and make a little more sense. And I added pound state so that it wouldn't ask for things like the email address if you told it not to email anyone. But again, all of that I think needs more review to see if the user experience is improved and if the explanations of what the checkboxes do is clear. So it should just enable the user interface so you can click the like apply core update button. We should make sure that works too. Now that we have a core update, we could do that. I think the pull request is against the previous version, so you can apply it to 1.11.2 and then run the update checker and then see if you can update to 1.11.3.
Yeah, one thing that came up was that even the terminology and the help text around the process was mentioning that the old core folder was being deleted. And I thought that maybe in the process we should just keep that there and prompt the person doing the maintenance, like the site administrator, to manually delete it themselves when they've verified that things work as expected. So it would be a form of sort of like keeping a backup until, so that people can revert things. I made a comment on that.
Yeah, I think we talked about that before, and I think there were some reasons as to why we thought that wasn't going to work, because you can't just have another copy of core, because Vector will go and read all those files, and then you'll have like multiple copies of modules. But we could do something like move it, or we could like compress it or something, but those would all require that you have sufficient permissions on the machine in order to do those things.
So sorry, Jen, what I've been manually doing is like each time that core comes out, I rename the core folder to core something like a version, and then I put a new version of core in its place. I've never had issues. So if there's on the same top level folder, if there's a second folder with an old version of core, it doesn't mess things up.
It should.
No, I don't think it does.
Yeah. So I've been doing that for D7 and Backdrop, and I never saw any
problem. How do the modules in the profiles folder work? Does it specifically check the profiles folder for modules?
Yeah. The profiles module or profiles directory is special.
Okay.
So
it used to just check everything, right?
No, it was the same thing. Yeah.
And libraries was also adding support for a libraries folder to be checked. That's it. So my whole idea is like what I've been manually doing all this time is that if we skip the part where we delete the old folder and we just keep it in place, people will just have an easy way to revert, just rename the folders and you're back at where you are, and excluding the DB updates that you might have run. And then when the update process finishes, we'll let them know that, hey, there's a copy of the old folder there. Once you've made sure that everything works as expected, you can delete that. It's just sort of like being cautious.
Is there, so permissions-wise, if we have permission to write a new directory to that same location, then we should have permission to rename the old one, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and we should, we have to have some kind of archival capability as well in order for the automatic updates to work. I think we have to support, right now I think we're requiring zip. So that means that we could also create a zip. If we can expand one, we can create one as well. So
so we need the expand one to just install the backdrop library, right? Because we have to pull the core directory out of somewhere.
Right, and that's what it does already, is it comes out of a zip file and puts it into that location.
Okay. So
I think it actually expands into a temp directory, and then once it's in the temp directory, then it moves.
But we could
just basically the idea was to skip the bit where we delete automatically things and leave it to the site builder to just delete it themselves when they made sure that there's no problems.
So what if your site builder has no access to the code base? I just want to make sure that we're leaving things in a state that will remain safe over time. So I think with the only risk would be eating up file space on disk, right? If we leave those old files lingering around, I feel like that's safer than deleting something maybe to a point where they can't get it back. And if we have an archival thing there too, it is theoretically possible that we could include some kind of restore script, or they could get one from Drush or something, I don't know, to like put it back.
Yeah, out of memory, I think it's like around 7 megabytes compressed and like 15 megabytes unzipped. So compared to the files that an average site has for images, that's very minimal.
Yeah.
Like there's more chances for people to run out of space because they're uploading files literally.
Yeah.
Rather than old copies of core backups.
Okay.
Yeah.
I still think it would be good if what we could do is rename and compress the old directory.
Yeah. As a crazy idea, you could you could compress the old version. So put the new version in place, move the old version out of the way, and then once you're done with that, then compress the previous copy, and then save it as an entry in the files table, and then it would literally show up in the managed files list as like a file.
So they deleted themselves.
Yeah, and then that would give users the ability to delete the backups if they wanted to from the user interface.
Whoa, I love it.
Yeah, because there's nothing special about the archive. It's just a copy of core.
Right.
So the odds of there being something sensitive in there, or something that shouldn't be publicly accessible, is really pretty low. Well, anyway, I think that's something that we can think about. I actually am not sure that needs to happen in phase one, especially for the part before it becomes automatic, right? Like the ability that we have right now, just allowing it to update itself from the user interface, probably doesn't need that capability quite yet, especially if it's disabled by default.
Yeah, but the bit that we back up for archive, you mean? Because leaving the old core in place, as in a separate folder, is probably a good idea, because deleting it is destructive. Like people cannot go back to that, or there's a lot of manual work involved. So they have to find a previous release from GitHub, extract it, and then manually upload it to the server. Whereas if we keep things in place, like rename the core folder to core something version, then it will be in place.
I'm a little bit hesitant about that, because it might leave cruft that we never would then clean up. You know, like in a subsequent release, it would be hard for us to tidy up after ourselves.
Okay.
Because I think we should definitely work on the assumption that the people that are going to be using automatic updates are the people that aren't going to be accessing their server via FTP or SSH, you know?
Yep, fair enough.
Okay, well, still interesting ideas all around. That sounds great, Jen, that you've separated out the automatic updates from manual updates to make it so that we can do manual updates as one thing and then automatic updates as another thing. Whether those both happen this release or only one of them does, or the first step, you know, we'll see.
I don't think there's any way we can turn on automatic updates without having anyone do manual updates first. I think that would be really irresponsible.
Well, I think that we can do the same thing where we can have the capability to do automatic updates, but have it not be accessible to turn on in the user interface. The same way that manual updates are possible right now, but require a config change to like the JSON file. So there's no ability in the user interface to actually turn it on. So I think we could do the same sort of thing.
Automatic updates are also blocked by package signing, right? And that's not.
No. Not necessarily. Like package signing is icing on a security cake. You know, it's not. You know, the fact that we can download and install modules, and that modules can already update, contrib modules can already update without package signing. You know, it's no different really. Like package signing is
it's not doing automatically. Like you have to push the button to know you broke your site. It's not just like you show up one day and you're like, oh my god, why is my site broken? You did it. It's just a different experience, I think. And I think that, like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, package signing is a great idea no matter what. Like, what we have right now is not ideal. And making it automatically not ideal isn't, well, it just becomes automatically not ideal.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think package signing holds up anything. It's just something that, as being a responsible software, we should have.
I would like to see that get in at the same time or before the automatic updates becomes available for everyone, just to kind of cover our bases a little more.
Yeah, well, even then, it's not totally covering our bases because we're so
a little more.
A little more, exactly, and it's always just getting a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a session in Drupal South about this. Security is not a get everything done in a single go. It's more like an iterative thing. So you improve. Baby step. Yeah.
Yep, and that's the thing is that right now we're in this position that you know, like package corruption or upstream malicious behavior is not a common problem for us, you know, but the problem of people aren't updating their sites fast enough is a very real problem that has affected us multiple times. And so if we can get that solved, it would be worth, you know, delaying some other security concerns that are less important to us, I think.
So I have a question for the changing the way updates work. The manual updates right now don't rename or compress the core directory. And we have an issue for the user interface that states what it currently does. And we have an issue for automatic updates. Should I create another issue to rename and compress?
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, that could be done right now for contrib, like you say.
Yeah.
Like every time a contrib module is updated, a backup could be created in the same way because it's gonna the core update mechanism and the contrib update mechanism are they're the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And what about the files table reference? Should that be a follow-up issue?
That's one possible solution for backups, I think, is that it makes a backup and then it puts it into the files directory or into the files table. Yeah.
Okay, I'll take a look at that and see.
On that note,
the scope of this is increasing for 112, which is making me a little nervous. I'm trying to figure out where the line is. How how would you feel about putting in the user interface without any of the other changes for 112?
Yep.
That's okay. And then I can iterate and make it like make a backup, and then we can iterate and add it to the manage files table. And however much gets in, gets in. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That's
and that backup thing, like that could be done separately, you know, like entirely separately.
Because I just thought that if we put the backups into the file listing, then people that have access to the file listing will be able to delete the backups, and only administrators should be able to do that.
Well.
Yeah. So imagine that someone thinks that it's a redundant file, they delete it, and then the administrator cannot go back to a backup. But
it's still just backdoor core. So I feel like the utility there might outweigh the risk.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. But as Nate said, it can be a follow-up issue. We don't have to delay any of the other stuff because of that. It will be just sort of like something awesome that just happens.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and some people might even find that to be annoying, you know, like especially updating contrib, like if there's, you know, one archive for every module, 10 modules get updated, they're like, why does all this crap in my files directory? And they might just delete it all the time. In which case they might decide they don't want backups, and you know there might be a checkbox for like backup, and you just uncheck it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Scope growing.
Yeah. Well, the scope, it's a different. Yeah. It's new features for sure, which means new issues. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see other areas here. Tags for modules is issue number 37. There's been some discussion on this around what this issue really gets us, but there's no actual updates there, I don't think, as far as implementation.
No, but there are exciting related updates, and if you want to see what's going on with backupcms.org and projects, you should watch the outreach meeting where we discuss about that in more detail.
Okay, excellent. Let's see, options element in core, issue 1005. There's no updates on this one, although it is still worth noting that this one still looks really good, still is in needs review, and is probably ready to be transitioned to RTBC. It's probably waiting on a technical review. We've already had multiple confirmations from the front end saying it looks great. 2632 is fieldable file types or file bundles. No updates on that one either. There's still a pull request. It still works. Kind of the same situation here. Lacking in-depth technical review, or there's some concerns about the user interface that we might want to pare down the scope of that issue to make it so that we can fit it into 1.12. Let's see. Config translation, issue number 704. We've had some recent update and exciting progress on that one. That the pull request has recently been updated. It works. It fundamentally provides the new APIs that we were expecting to make it so that config has an officially sanctioned way of translating strings rather than just calling the T function in places. It still ultimately does use the T function, but it's much more clear that is the accepted and official way to do translation and config. It still needs some more work to complete. I think that it doesn't actually handle the discoverability yet to make it so that locale module automatically populates the strings or can find the strings that need to be translated within config files, but it's coming along. And then we get into the section of things that are RTBC. We've got this issue to add a formatter for taxonomy terms to show them as a rendered version in issue 3283. That one has been RTBC'd multiple times over, just really needs to be committed. Translatable taxonomy terms is issue 2934, which is also in RTBC currently. And I'm going to skip down a little bit to say CK Editor, updating it to the latest 4.x version is issue 3355. It's also RTBC. Whew, that's a lot of RTBCs. Let's see, there's issue 495 is adding a dashboard functionality Is this like a realistic thing for 1.12? I think it just got added to the agenda like a week ago. What are our thoughts on that?
So the initial thought was just to add a layout and place some blocks on it. And we already have some admin blocks because they were in Drupal core. And other ones would be just another display on an existing view. And so it would be essentially config changes with the layout file ending up in the standard profile. And so that's kind of our round one, and we think that that's realistic for 1.12. And then there are a whole bunch of things we think we could do to improve the dashboard long term, like adding new blocks or adding redirect when you log in, or adding user-specific dashboards or whatever, that are sort of like, well, those will come later, but like just adding the default config file we think will be an improvement.
And perhaps redirecting the administrator or people that have access to it when they log in instead of their profile thing. That was the issue that actually brought this issue to be.
Yeah, do we are we thinking that would just be an option in dashboard for the time being, or are we talking about a generic like redirect a user to some other location functionality?
It would just be for the dashboard.
Yeah.
And people can clone because it's going to be a layout, basically they can clone it and create multiple dashboards for different, because we have the visibility things for different users, for example. So yeah, it just opens more possibilities. And it brings people, when people log in, they're going to find something useful instead of just looking at their profile edit thing.
Yeah, which has always been a very, very weird thing. I remember Jen's presentation in
2009
in Copenhagen. Is that where that was?
Yep. That was 2010, I guess.
Yeah, it was the WordPress is better than Drupal. That was literally the name of the talk. Funny where how the past leads to the present, isn't it? But in that presentation, Jen just went through WordPress, and she was like, first of all, we'll log in, and you notice it puts us somewhere useful. Like that was like the very first thing that was like in the demo for WordPress, was like, when you log in, it takes you to something that does something, as opposed to just like your profile page that says you've been a member for 2 years,
And nothing else.
And nothing else.
In those 2 years, you've been seeing this.
It's been 2 years that you've been logging in and seeing this page that does nothing.
I'm working on a backdrop upgrade right now, and every time I log in, it's like, you've been a member for 11 years. And I'm like, I've seen this page for 11 years after logging in. I would love to fix that. It would be glorious.
It's the same thing as the welcome to your site. You have nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, if we think that we can manage the scope, then let's go for it. And of course, as always, like, it doesn't have to be comprehensive. It's just a starting point, and then we can improve. Sounds great. Okay. Let's see. That does it for the 1.12 update. We don't have Jeff here for the Backdrop for Good update, so that will go into Q&A then. Do you guys have anything you guys would like to bring up?
Oh yeah, Nate, you mentioned before that the problem with the installer with localhost and you said that it was fixed, but I see issue 3223, and I see it as still not fixed. Was there anything that actually got merged for the bug fix release? Because I see. Sorry, the issue.
Yeah, what was the issue?
3223. So I think that was the issue with the localhost versus 127.0.0.1.
There were two issues.
Oh.
Yeah.
Darn.
Sorry.
I thought that we had merged this, but no, we just had a bunch of people saying it was ready to go, and then I didn't actually get it included.
No, it's not that it's ready to. We need further testing. We need to verify that things are fixed with that. So last thing was that me and Quinn also mentioned that we'll make some time to just test things and see if it gets fixed.
Are you guys MAMP users?
Sorry? I am not, but I can install it.
I am a MAMP user, so
Okay,
I'm
then
happy to help test that too.
You can help test. Yes, thanks.
Yeah. The last we had somebody chill for Prans tried it, and he said that it works for MAMP. So
yeah.
Well, shoot. Darn, that was too bad. That was actually the number one thing I wanted to have fixed in that release. I didn't even realize that it wasn't included.
Wishful thinking, no worries.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Okay. That gives us more incentive to make another minor release with some of those cross ports from 777. Then.
Yep. Exactly. I was about to say that actually.
Yeah, because we've actually have a lot of things that were kind of missed. I mean that sort of happens. Like
That's
the
because we
important.
have so much going on.
Yeah, the important thing is to have regular releases. So this will encourage that.
Yeah. No worries.
Also, I did already do a comprehensive code review for options element. I'm just looking through it again now, but it looks like Herb has addressed all of my feedback and marked all of my comments on the code as resolved. So I don't know if someone else wants to look over it, but I looked at the code and it's pretty good.
I always want to take a look, but I always keep forgetting. But last time that I checked it out, it was pretty ready to go. It was just minor things, suggestions that I had that could easily be turned out as well.
I'm going to add this settings.php thing to the agenda so that we remember. Yeah, that thing I really want to get fixed in there.
Nate, how do you feel about the options element theme function just being called options? Is that okay?
Theme options?
Theme options.
Yeah, that's in line with all of the other ones. Theme text field, theme radio, theme checkbox.
Okay. I didn't know if options was too generic, but I suppose like.
Well, that's what its type is, isn't it? Pound type equals options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, this is what it was before, so it's not changed. So that's good if you were using theme options in Drupal 7 for options on.
Yeah.
Get that one too. Okay. Yeah, I like the code. I like the code. Code review looks good.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Well, thank you, folks, for joining the meeting today. Thank you, everybody out there on the internet that keeps watching these videos on a weekly basis. We've got lots of exciting things queued up for 1.12, so we'll keep on cracking. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.